Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And today we're actually going to be talking about technology coming from Chinese companies, specifically those that are based in China, not just manufactured there. And so the question is, is technology from Chinese-based corporations a security threat to the United States, Europe, and others? Now, the reason why we're talking about this is if you didn't hear the news, and I think probably a lot of you did, President Trump yesterday declared an executive order, basically a national emergency via an executive order, on threats against American technology. Now, here's the nuts and bolts of it if you just skim the headlines. This executive order authorizes the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, in consultation with other top officials, to block transactions that involve information or communications technology that, and I quote, plenty of notes here, poses an unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States. Now, exactly following this order, basically on the heels of this order, Wilbur Ross, the U.S. Department of Commerce, announced the addition of Huawei Technologies and its affiliates, about 70 companies in total or so, to the Bureau of Industry and Security's entity list, basically making it a lot more difficult for Huawei and its partners or affiliates to basically conduct business with U.S. companies. Now, this addition to this list means that U.S. companies cannot sell or transfer technology to Huawei without a license issued by the BIS, that is the Bureau of Industry and Security. Now, this obviously is going to make it harder for Huawei to do business because they're going to have harder times getting parts from suppliers that are U.S. based. Now, Commerce Secretary Ross came out and said, and I quote, "The decision which will prevent," I'm sorry, let me requote. Wilbur Ross said, in regards to the decision, and I quote, "will prevent American technology from being used by foreign-owned entities in ways that potentially undermine U.S. national security or foreign policy interests." Now, Huawei responded to this almost immediately. I think they probably saw which way the wind was blowing here, and I'll get to that in a second. Huawei said, and I quote, "restricting Huawei from doing business with the U.S. will not make the U.S. more secure or stronger. Instead, this will only serve to limit the U.S. to inferior yet more expensive alternatives, leaving the U.S. lagging behind in 5G deployment and eventually harming the interests of U.S. companies and consumers. We are ready and willing to engage with the U.S. government and come up with effective measures to ensure product security." Now, the reason why they're saying this is that we have some recent history with Huawei that kind of puts them into question. And I'm going to be diving into those as well as a little bit of analysis here. Now, in December, Canadian authorities arrested Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou to serve basically an extradition request to the United States, which is alleged that the company defrauded several banks by concealing payments from Iran in violation of sanctions against that country. Basically, if you are trading partners in technology with companies that we have embargoes on, that is illegal within the United States. Now, a month later in January, the Department of Justice announced a slew of charges against 2 units of the company, including basically stealing trade secrets from T-Mobile USA. Now, both Huawei and ZTE, and ZTE is a competitor of Huawei, but they're much smaller, were barred from most U.S. government contract work by the 2019 Defense Authorization Act. And I know about a year ago or so, the United States military, the Department of Defense, banned Huawei and ZTE phones from being sold to soldiers on military installations. So military personnel would not be able to buy those very easily. And so we have 2 basic sides to this. And I've seen a lot of debate in the cybersecurity community on whether Huawei is a threat or not. We had articles that came out late last year by Bloomberg, basically accusing the Chinese government of breaking into a company called Supermicro and inserting microprocessors, the grain of rice, into the motherboards of these servers, and these servers were being shipped to places like the U.S. Navy, Apple, Amazon, etc. They followed that up with an article, talking about supply chain hacking and what tech firms like Sepio Systems. I actually interviewed their CEO Yossi Applebaum about this, regarding it, and they actually do find stuff like this all the time. So we know this kind of stuff does happen. But is Huawei actually doing anything illegal? Now, we also know that Huawei, that uses the Android operating system from Google to put out phones, we have found some vulnerabilities in those over the past year or so that would possibly allow remote access or remote exfiltration from these phones. Huawei has since corrected those issues, from what I understand, or at least released patches for it. And so I don't necessarily know if there's anything else there. So I think in some ways there would definitely be some kind of cause for concern that if they are spinning up critical 5G infrastructure, would they be able to put in some kind of surveillance system integrated into that we might have a very difficult time finding, if we even can? Or is this just completely overblown? Now, a lot of people on the other side are saying this is purely political. President Trump is in a trade war, or at least a trade dispute with China right now. And so harming Huawei harms the interests of Chinese high technology, because the Chinese government that is very close to Huawei obviously is probably making billions of dollars in sales as Huawei continues to expand their global presence. They're very large in other countries around the globe, including Mexico, directly to the south of us, and South America and some other places. So we'll see where this goes, but that is the news of the day. Do you think that this is good, bad, ugly? Do you think that Chinese technology, especially high technology based in China from Chinese companies, poses a possible surveillance, privacy, or hacking threat to the United States or the country that you're in? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. My default policy typically is to err on the side of caution. If we have some suspicion or possibility of this, then why not make sure that it's fully vetted? Why not use it until it can be 100% confirmed? Now, that could also go for non-Chinese technology as well, but we are here specifically talking about Chinese technology. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.